The price of Bitcoin crypto kids is falling as expected. We're currently trading at $76,900. On Friday's show, I pointed out the triple top in the crypto kids Telegram community. I posted the short-term bearish expectation. But more importantly, on the daily time frame, the most significant point of TA that we all spoke together was the 200 daily moving average retest, and how in prior cycles that retest has led to major drawdowns. This is 2022 March. This is 2018 May. When you put it onto the 4-year cycle and you overlay these prices on top of each other, it's at the exact same point in the 4-year cycle. And I made a full dedicated video just about the 200 daily moving average and how Bitcoin behaved following a retest towards it. And that video was 6 days ago and did very, very well. So I'm very happy because a lot of people got to watch it and see that TA viewpoint because it's playing out. Bitcoin is getting the 200 daily moving average retest with a short-term top pattern, like what went down over the past trading week. And then you flip back into 2022, that was also a short-term top pattern. It was also in a bear flag, coincidentally. And in 2018, it was also a short-term top pattern. What I would like you to keep your focus on from today onwards is that in 2018, Bitcoin, following the 200 daily moving average retest, swiped the lows it created earlier that year, which was at $5,800, and it marked a lower low in Q4. In 2022, Bitcoin also swiped the lows it created earlier on in that year and generated its lowest point in Q4. So with Bitcoin today, I get the argument that this time is different due to institutional capital and less retail participants. I get the argument that we're not seeing capitulation events and major companies breaking down like the bear market of 2022. I get those differences. I understand the differences in monetary policy. Bitcoin cares about these fundamental events. It really does. And it changes the percentage drawdowns and it changes the time frame slightly in my view. But the big picture, it remains constant. I think Bitcoin is going to drop to 71. Can we see a small push to the upside in the short term because we're approaching support at 75,800? Sure. But I see Bitcoin testing the support line. And following that test, I see a breakdown. I see us claiming the lows from 60K. And whatever the low number is going to be, I can't comment. I don't know what the low number is. Nominally, the figure, the exact low point, it's impossible to say. And anybody claiming that they know where that lowest point will be is only speculating, which is fine. And we can also do that. I think it could be the mid 50s. It could be 49K. But exactly the price, it's impossible to tell. We will navigate accordingly. From my trading plan and investing plan, it hasn't changed. I think that 76.8 is a great time to buy Bitcoin. I think that 50K will be a great time to buy Bitcoin if we fall to it. I think that 100K will be a great time to buy Bitcoin. That's investing. Trading is different. Trading, I will not flip long in my view, and therefore my trading until or if Bitcoin is able to breach. I mean, it will eventually do this, but if Bitcoin is able to break above the compiled resistance above us, the same thing that I've been telling you for the past weeks, it's not changed, it's the same. If Bitcoin is able to break above the resistance of 82.83, confirmed by volume is important. If you don't see volume confirmation, it can always be a fake out. Without seeing volume confirmation, you're risking a fake out. Derivatives traders can create moves that appear to be consequential, but without the support of spot buying, they're almost never sustained. And you'll realize that the volume we have today in the markets is very little. So you would have to go over 82, 83 with volume, and then I will change my bias. I will change my bias of being bearish, and I'll flip to being bullish, expecting the 90s to be seen. And if Bitcoin were to break above 97, 98, I'll call for all-time highs. That's trading. You can always pivot. You can be pragmatic depending on the price action and how the price action changes. That's how you trade. That's how you make money as a trader. Those are my scenarios, and I'll trade accordingly depending on which scenario Bitcoin likes to follow. So far, we're following, retest the 200 daily moving average, do what we did in prior cycles, and head down. This is what I posted on May the 12th. That was the video that I posted on May the 12th on YouTube, explaining it in full detail. My expectations have not changed. The fundamental market has changed a little bit since that day because the bond market is at concerningly high levels in their interest payments. The 10-year note in America hit 4.6%, the highest since February of 2025. Mortgage rates have always been nearing, it feels like 7%, but yes, they are at 7%. There are 600,000 more sellers than buyers in the American real estate market. The US notes climbing to 5.1% on the US 30-year shows the illiquidity, shows the lack of demand, and shows a point of break in the system that we're approaching. It's not normal that the 30-year Treasury yield is at the highest level since 2007, pre-2008 financial crisis. Okay, the 2000 financial crisis was cataclysmic and it's a big pandemonium from mortgage-backed securities, and that mortgage-backed security flaw is not something that operates in today's markets, thankfully. So I don't see a 2008-like recession. If we see markets go down, I don't see that happening. It's just, it would be a downturn in the market. 2008 was something different. Doesn't invalidate the fact that 5.1% yield on the 30-year note within a year where America needs to refinance $9.5 trillion through the issuance of debt, which is the issuance of treasuries, is not concerning. President Trump wanted to lower the interest rate. He was telling the Fed to lower the rates. But then we had geopolitical tensions rising. From 2.4% CPI, we jumped up to 3.8. The next CPI data point will likely be in the 4%. So how can you get the Fed to cut rates? If the Fed is not cutting rates, chances are they're not printing money, so you're not going to see quantitative easing. The new Fed chair that's coming in, Kevin Warsh, he started his term officially today. He has been anti-QE for the past 2 decades. There are so many quotes from him saying that he doesn't like QE, and the strategy that the Fed deployed in 2021, 2022, which was printing double the money in existence, was the wrong strategy because QE leads to inflation. He said that multiple times. President Trump claims that Kevin Warsh is going to reduce the rates, but in his hearing process, he said that he will be apolitical. And regardless of what he does, if it pleases or if it displeases the administration doesn't have any power against his position of being Fed chair. So I don't think that Kevin Warsh is going to apply QE, especially in a time of geopolitical conflict and uncertainty in Iran and in Cuba. It does not make sense. The market is super illiquid. If they cut rates, it would help the fiscal policy, but that's not the job of the Fed. The Treasury could issue more debts. And I know that some people are claiming, okay, if the Fed doesn't print money, then the Treasury will just issue more bonds and print in that regard. But it doesn't work that way. The Fed has the ability on a computer screen to digitally, electronically make more numbers appear, which are more dollars. They put these electronically created dollars into the reserves of local banks, commercial banks, local banks. And then they're able to lend that money out to clients because they bring down the interest rate to low levels so that it's attractive for people to loan money out. And that's how the money is printed and it's funneled into the economy, which causes inflation, which causes Bitcoin to go from $10,000 to $69,000 like it did in 2021. The Fed has the power to do that. The Treasury, on the other hand, no, it can issue more debt technically, but it's just recycling the money that already exists in the monetary environment. You're not increasing the M2 money supply. You're just reissuing debt that already exists within the constraints of M2. I hope that makes sense. So the Treasury can't print money. Or if it does something to what people consider as printing money, it doesn't increase the M2 money supply. Therefore, it doesn't cause the price of Bitcoin and similar assets to incline. The Fed has that sole power. And will the Fed cut rates? Well, according to the CME Fed Watch, until about 2028, that seems to be unlikely. And it's surprising Even though we have very good news when it comes to China, that China is going to approve 200 American Boeing-made aircraft for Chinese airlines, that China will purchase $17 billion per year of US agricultural products in 2026, 27, and 28, mostly soybean, and all the other bullish news that is coming from the China and America meeting, it's not enough to pump markets. Investors are more concerned that Cuba has acquired more than 300 military drones and has begun discussing plans to attack the US base at Guantanamo Bay, according to the Kobe letter. Investors find that more concerning. Investors find it concerning that Cuba is completely out of diesel and fuel oil per drop site, which could suggest that America is close to taking over Cuba. Investors are more concerned that President Trump over the weekend has said for Iran, the clock is ticking and they better get moving fast or there won't be anything left of them. Time is of the essence. Trump is expected to hold a Situation Room meeting with top national security team on Tuesday to discuss options for military action. US oil prices surged to $107 per barrel, completely eradicating the bullish consequences of the Trump and President Xi Jinping meeting. Investors are more concerned about geopolitical conflict. There's no oil coming out from Kharg Island, where 90% of Iranian oil exports were going from. That's completely blocked. The Strait of Hormuz is still under blockade. And as crude oil prices remain at $100 per barrel for longer, you're going to spike inflation to more critical areas. And from expecting a rate cut, the 2-year treasury suggests that we get a rate hike. In this monetary environment, it's impossible for Bitcoin to have the returns that the general public wanted to experience. I would love for Bitcoin to go to new all-time highs now. I would love for Bitcoin to invalidate the bearish scenario, which, of course, it still can, but it looks less likely. A peace deal between America and Iran, there's a development there too. Iran has been proposed by the US a set of conditions for a potential ceasefire deal. It includes Iran not being compensated for damages, so that's reparations, and a few other points that I hope Iran would accept, but I don't know if they would. Donald Trump's Iran war hits Americans with $40 billion fuel bill, but President Trump goes out and says that he doesn't really care about its impact on the American people. He is more concerned about big oil making a bunch of money, but he can't admit that because then they will say he forgets about the little man with the $4 gasoline. That we're making fortunes with people buying from other places like Texas. Is the American economy really of a concern to the administration? It doesn't look like it. And if we suffer the consequences in the short term, sure, maybe the long-term impacts are better or not better, that we can't know. But we suffer the consequences in the short term as Bitcoin and crypto investors, and nothing can change that. Before we end off today's video, guys, if you thought that US consumerism was dead and that the Michigan consumer sentiment data that's coming out this week was going to be on the lower end, well, think again, because people in the thousands, not just in America, but all across the world, have been lining up to buy the AP and Swatch collaboration. Sadly for them, Swatch decided to close many of its stores due to safety concerns. I can't comprehend how high unemployment must be. Okay, maybe the Michigan consumer sentiment is going to be positive, but how high is youth unemployment that individuals are able to wait in lines for 48 hours, sometimes even longer, 72 hours, to buy a $400 pocket watch? Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Guys, with that, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you're looking for a place to be buying or trading cryptocurrencies, do check out the links in the description where you can get the best bonuses available, particularly from BTCC. That will be in the first link in the description. Then you have Weeks and Levex and Bybit as well to begin buying and trading cryptocurrency. The Clarity Act video is coming. I just want to make it perfect. So that's going to be launched later on. Stay tuned. And as always, bye-bye.